Whenever women try and argue that they should get paid exactly the same amount as the person who's doing exactly the same job, it's quite hard for them to find out what that man is earning unless he individually is happy to disclose privately. This will strengthen the hand, won't it, of the women who feel that they should be paid equally.
No, absolutely, they'll want to be levelled up, not have the men levelled down. But it's true in workplaces across the country, and it's why there's always been proposals that you may not name who gets what, but you should say how much men get, how much women get in all organisations, so you can see that fully. But the BBC has preached it, and that's where they that's where they'll be caught.
That's their problem, and the fact that all the salaries are public money. That's different to any commercial network, which can pay what the hell it likes. Let me play devil's advocate with this for a moment. You're the BBC. Now, should you be compelled, Andrew, to just have 50-50 split on the number of people, male and female, who get paid a certain amount? What about the box office factor, where you have genuine stars? And it may be that at this particular period in time, at the BBC, there are more male box office stars who deliver ratings than there are women. Is that a valid argument?
Not anymore. Because there are just as many talented women out there in the world of broadcasting who could have just as such high-profile jobs on the BBC, and they should be being paid the same as the men. It's a very old-fashioned argument now, I think.
But it is, as you said, look, the Director General, the boss of the BBC, has always been a white bloke. Now, we're white blokes, three of us here, two women, but it seems to be wrong. You always ask who's the best person, and it's always a white bloke. There's got to be something wrong.
In terms of, I mean, that's an interesting question you raised, because in terms of ratings, I imagine that Strictly Come Dancing is probably the highest rated show on the BBC, which means that Tess and Claudia should be paid more than Gary Lineker presenting Match of the Day.
And I lay money that they're not.
Well, absolutely.
I bet you Gary Lineker will be right at the top.
But I would say, should they get paid, and I love them both, should they be paid more or less than, say, one of the male judges who's been there from the start, Bruno Tonioli, for example, who, to me, is one of the stars of the show from the very conception. In other words, does the longevity you've been on a show that's now a big hit, does that come into play?
I think it's a fact. It's a factor, of course it is. But the fact that that show has got, I mean, it's got a huge audience of women watching it as well. Those two presenters should be earning the most, in my view, on that in that programme.
In the Daily Mail newsroom.
Yeah.
Who's the highest paid?
If you took the top 40 people in the newsroom salaries, how many would be women?
Quite a lot, actually.
How many?
I don't know, actually, but I would say nearly half.
Would you?
Yeah, I would.
You don't think it might be nearer the BBC split?
No, I would be most surprised. Of course, we won't know because it's not public money and it's not going to be published.
The Daily Mirror, got Deputy Editor-in-Chief, Head of Features, you know, some of the big stars.
Most of them, I have to say, employed by me.
Good choice there, good call.
Very right on.
So there we are.
Can I just ask,
always been right
has the Daily Mirror ever had a female editor?
The Sunday Mirror has.
No, not the Daily Mirror. What about the Daily Mail?
No.
No.
No, newspapers can be...
There's a long way to go, isn't there?
Absolutely. We can be as guilty as anybody else.
But the editor we've got
hang
have
on,
been
the
there
editor of the
25
Sun on
years.
Sunday is a woman.
Yeah.
Rebecca Brooks was editor
Hugely
of the
so.
I know, but we're talking to representatives of two papers.
The Guardian has a female editor.
Evening Standard had two female editors.
No, just I'm talking to them as representatives of these their papers.
Well, the Mirror Sunday Mirror certainly had female editors.
Yeah, and I think newspapers are much better than they used to be. I mean, you get very senior women in the top jobs in newspapers now. Quite right.
But I accept when we chuck stones at the BBC, they can chuck some back. That's unquestionably so.
They can, but
not quite so many.
When it's public money, it's a very different debate. So when people try and take it to commercial, you know, the Mail can pay whoever it wants, whatever it wants. It's your money.
Yeah.
ITV can do the same. They can pay anybody whatever they like because it's commercial money. But when it's taxpayer money, I think you do have a bit more of a duty to show proper equality.
And they've had to be dragged to this point, the BBC, screaming and shouting
we should just
and hollering.
Explain why it's being disclosed.
It's freedom of information, and it's because they're a public service broadcaster.
But didn't Theresa May also force the hand a bit?
Well, because
she intervened.
Everyone who gets more than the Prime Minister, that's right.
Yeah. And it was a deal, wasn't it, done because otherwise the government was threatening to appoint...
Bring in legislation.
And remember, a lot of these people will be earning considerably more than the female Prime Minister.
But I'll say...
The public sector pay cap has been in place for 7 years, 1% increases. Why didn't it apply to the BBC?
I mean, it would be embarrassing.
Which is public sector.
It would be embarrassing if you're near the bottom of the list, but I'd still rather be top of that list. I'd take the flak. Yeah, I'm really... It's shameful.
I would hazard a guess you'd probably be quite close to the top of the list.
So I should be.